Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q1 FY22 earnings conference call of Greenply Industries Limited, hosted by Asian Market Securities Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Karan Bhatelia from Asian Market Securities. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rutuja. Good morning, all. On behalf of Asian Market Securities, we welcome you all to the Greenply Industries 1Q FY22 conference call. We have with us Mr. Sanidhya Mittal, Joint Managing Director, Mr. Manoj Tulsian, Joint Managing Director and CEO, along with Mukesh Agarwal, CFO. Before we begin, I would like to state that some of the statements made in today's discussion may be forward-looking in nature and may involve risk and uncertainties. A detailed statement in this regard is available in the result presentation that is sent to you earlier. I now would like to invite Mr. Manoj sir to begin the proceedings of the call. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Karan. A very warm welcome to everyone present, and thank you very much for joining us today to discuss Greenply's operating and financial performance for Q1 FY 2022. As part of our transformational journey, we are happy to announce that Greenply has decided to foray into MDF boards business. The plant with an installed capacity of 800 CBM per day and an investment outlay of around 550 crores should be operational by Q4 FY 23. The unit has been strategically located in the western region market to get the first mover advantage and capitalize on the latent demand. This new business segment will act as a key catalyst for our long-term growth plans in terms of market penetration and profitability. Going forward, we see a greater consumption of MDF products led by increased preferences for purchasing ready-made furniture and other varied applications of MDF. Post the gradual unlocking and things getting back to normalcy, we were moving at a good pace if you have all seen our Q4 FY21 numbers. However, with the unexpected disruptions due to second wave, our performance remained muted for this quarter, but the momentum is again picking up from July onwards, and we see a decent turnaround of demand scenario and financial performance ahead. Though there are still some bottlenecks like supply chain and labor availability, and still there are some restrictions on public transport. Our under construction greenfield plywood unit in Sandila, Lucknow is on track. The site development activities have started. We have incurred the capex of around rupees 5 crore in the current quarter, and the balance capex of around 85 crore will be incurred in the next 3 quarters. We are hopeful to commence commercial production by March 2022. The company is continuously working towards enhancing the product portfolio with focus on sustainability and operational efficiencies that will support in maintaining the market leadership position. The market is showing signs of improvement with both pent-up demand and new demand picking up in the industry. The future of real estate remains bullish in view of optimistic economic growth, new project launches in pipeline, rising GDP and all-time low interest costs, resulting in the positive future sentiment score. Looking at the improving dynamics of real estate, we thought it would be the best time for product portfolio expansion and take our company to greater heights. I would now like to hand over the call to Mr. Mukesh to discuss our financial performance. Mukesh, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Manoj. Good day, everyone. I thank everybody for joining us to discuss Q1 FY22 financial performance of Greenply Industries. Our efforts are continuously directed towards normalcy and improving our business, while second wave of COVID had some impact on the performance of this quarter. However, I do hope that all of you and your loved ones are safe and healthy. Our consolidated entities net sales for the quarter stood at rupees 260.1 crore compared to rupees 132.2 crore in Q1 FY21, an increase of 96.7% and a decline by 34.3% as compared to Q4 FY21. Consolidated gross margins declined by 330 bps YOY to 43.2% and EBITDA margins stood at 5.9% versus a negative EBITDA of 2% in Q1 FY21. Standalone net sales in Q1 FY22 stood at rupees 212.6 crore versus 107.1 crore in Q1 FY21, an increase of 98.6% and declined by 40.6% as compared to Q4 FY21. Standalone gross margin for the quarter improved by 178 basis points to 42.9% on YOY basis and EBITDA margin of 5.6% versus negative of 4.7% in Q1 FY21. PAT stood at rupees 4.2 crore versus a loss of rupees 9.5 crore in Q1 FY21. Our average realization in plywood came at rupees 235 per square meters in Q1 FY22 versus rupees 224 per square meter in the corresponding period last year. On consolidated basis, debtor days have reduced to 53 days from 61 days as on March 2021 and 186 days as on June 2020. Working capital days increased at 63 days when compared to 53 days and 180 days at the end of the sequential and corresponding quarter respectively. Our manufacturing capacities at all the three plants have been reassessed and revised. This is the Chartered Engineer certificate. The same now showed at 34.9 million square meters. The second wave impacted the business at our Gabon Unit 2, while we are expecting better results than posted. We hope normalcy will return from our Gabon operations in coming quarters. On standalone basis, there was no major capex in the current quarter. However, we are expecting around 18 to 20 crores of maintenance capex in the financial year from the India business and from Gabon business. Our balance sheet continues to be robust. Consolidated debt has reduced to 186.8 crores as on 30th June 2021 from rupees 191.7 crore as on March 2021. Consolidated debt equity ratio also continues to decline and standing at 0.42 as on June 2021 as compared to 0.44 as on 31st March 2021. I would like now to hand over the call to the moderator to open the floor for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Shall we start with the Q&A, sir? Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rishikesh Bhagat from Kotak Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So, two questions from my end on this MDF foray. So first, since it's on the western part and not many of the peers are present in that locality, so just wanted to understand what will be the source of raw material, in the sense, is there any wood cluster like what the peers have in western part of India, in Gujarat also? And secondly, on the end market for this plant, in sense, will you be targeting export or within India, which are the regions, in the sense whether it will be for southern region, northern region? If you can give some color on that, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Hi. So I'd like to answer this question. So firstly, on the raw material availability, our team has done detailed research on the raw material availability, and we have some data from third-party agencies also which do remote sensing and give us the plantation data of that area. So the data as well as the physical survey of our team says that putting a plant from the raw material availability angle is perfectly fine, and we should go ahead with it, number one. And on the other side, our focus is definitely going to be the western market because there's no other player in MDF industry in the western market. And without affecting our margins, we will be able to pass on the benefit of transportation on outward freight to our consumers in the western market. Hence, we'll definitely be 3 to 4% cheaper in the Western market, and we'll be able to get a substantial market share in the West. And as far as export is there, we're not putting the plant thinking about exports, but yes, we will definitely take advantage of EPCG and not pay import duty on the machines we're importing. So we will have some amount of export liability which we are going to fulfill. And as on the current scenario, even the export prices look very attractive. So looks like even on the liability, the export liability which we have, we will be making good money on it.
So just one on the, you did cover that a large part of the Western market. So currently the demand in the Western part of India is serviced by imports and Southern plant, or it comes from Northern plant also? If you can help me on that, that will be helpful. Thank you. For industry.
I believe there are two players who have plants in South. So I'm sure that for them it is making more sense to supply from South. The rest players which don't have plants in South, they are supplying from North as well, but not in a great quantity because that market is not a focus of them, for them. And in the past, before the pandemic, a lot of import was happening in the West. Now, after the pandemic and given the current global scenario, the import is almost down to negligible levels.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Yogesh Kulkarni from Quantum Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Actually, my question has partly answered, but I just want to continue on that. Do you have any thought on the ESG point of view? I mean, the sustainability of the raw material or something on the carbon emissions and all, water consumption. Any data is not available at present, but would you like to share any thought on that?
So, as Sanidhya mentioned, that, we have done a detailed recce on all these aspects, and we were extremely comfortable. And the move is quite strategic in terms that, if you really see our total capacity, annualized capacity would be around 240,000 CBM. And there is already an existing market there of close to around a similar number. And by the time our plant comes, that number is going to grow. Second, as much as all of us understand about MDF, it is also like a commodity where freight plays a major role. So there is some latent demand today which is not visible because, once you add the sourcing from north or south with freight cost, it does not become viable. So moment we have a plant in west, we are able to cater to those demands also easily. And in fact, we'll have advantage on the chemical purchases also, because most of those chemicals are there in the Gujarat belt. So there we will get again a pricing advantage. So overall on the raw material side, we will get a pricing advantage. And the plant will be very strategic and, near to the port. So we will always get the strategic advantage of even exports to Middle East, Europe, Africa, all those places.
Okay, thanks. If I have any question, I will come in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Achal from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. My first question is, with respect to the MDF, foray, if you could give us a sense in terms of what kind of, return profile are we looking at, and what kind of payback period are we looking at for this segment?
See, the payback period would be anything around 7 years, and this will, on a steady scale, will start generating a ROC of around 18 to 19%.
And this 18-19% you're saying post-tax or pre-tax, sir?
Post-tax.
Understood. And this is assuming the 15% tax rate, right? I mean, the benefit of the new subsidiary investments, right?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
This assumes a 15% tax rate, right? Or 25% tax?
Of course, yes. That is one of the reasons that we are just trying to make it very fast-paced. It's a challenge which we have taken as a team. we got some advantage by acquiring that company because a few state work has already been done by them, so that helps us in slightly making it fast-paced. Still, I would say that, all of us know that setting up any new greenfield project on MDF takes, as we see the data, past data of all the recognized companies, they've taken anything between 24 to 30 months.
Right.
So we are really trying to speed that up, and fingers crossed, we hope that we will be able to commence our production in Q4 of FY23.
Understood. This particular facility, what is the area, and is that the final capacity we can set up there, or we can, further expand as we go along?
So, since we acquired this company, they were looking at a land parcel of around 75 acres, which is much more than, setting up the first plant. So we'll have adequate opportunity in future to expand business horizon here in this, land parcel.
So of the 75 acres, how much are we using in the first phase?
We're still on the drawing board, but I think our internal assessment is we should be using around 30-35 max. Yeah, not beyond that. I mean, we are trying to do everything within 30 only.
Right.
Plus or minus 2-3 acres.
That means potentially we can double the capacity if things get better and as years pass by. Is that fair assessment, sir?
Absolutely fair assessment.
Understood. So my next question was, how do you look at the sales part of the MDF? Would that be more OEM driven? Will that be more retail driven? And do you see a risk of any confusion with respect to the brand, given green panel is already there? So, are we going to use the same green brand, or could that be some different so that there is a clear distinction between the two?
So, I'd like to answer this question. So, in MDF, our understanding is that we'll have about 20% of the channel which is going to be common, and 80% of the channel is going to be unique, which will include specific players who sell MDF and also OEMs. So as a brand, I think we'll have to work very hard and create our space there. The advantage we are going to get that this is a commodity product, and because it's a commodity and we are going to have a price advantage in Western India, we'll be able to capture the market very fast. That is one. Number two, I feel that, even today as we talk, Green Panel has their own plywood in the market and Greenply has its plywood in the market. And both have been able to get their market share and survive and do well. And in fact, if you see, we are further expanding our plywood capacity. So when in plywood, where the branded game is much bigger and it's not that much of a commodity in India, we are able to successfully market both the products in the market without any confusion. So I'm sure in MDF also we'll be able to do. And we haven't exactly decided what brand name we're going to market MDF under. Our marketing team is working on it. But most likely we're going to do it under our flagship brand, which is going to be Greenply.
Right. Just a thought, in case of a Green Panel, the ply business is relatively small and they are not looking at any further expansion in that business, while in case of MDF for us, we will look at further expansion. Isn't that, isn't that a little different from the ply argument, I would say?
Well, it is different for sure, but when you compare our MDF scale and their MDF scale, their installed capacity is much higher. So if they are a small player in plywood, we'll be a small player in MDF for now, for sure.
Fair point.
They continue to be larger in MDF, they have already good capacity. And I'm
right.
sure they will also look at expansion in future. Right? But for us, it is more like rather than pure play in one side of the panel business, it in a way de-risks us also. And MDF, as we said, the application is manifold beyond furniture also. So, it actually somehow balances us also in terms from a risk perspective. And whether it is, Green Panel or any other company, everyone will survive at the end of it. And today, if you really see both the companies, as Sanidhya mentioned, we are there in the plywood business, which was common. MDF was not common right now. Both of us have survived and both of us have grown. So we don't see that as a challenge at all.
Right. If I may ask one more question, sir. Before finalizing the MDF foray, given the large capex, the stress on the balance sheet, have we also looked at the other? So, what is the thought process? Before arriving at the MDF, if you could give some sense, that would be great, sir. In terms of the capital allocation, in terms of given our ply business has far higher, far bigger return profile. So what is the rationale for MDF? I mean, I understand the opportunities there, that de-risking is also another factor. But, did you also kind of evaluate the other segments of the wood panel and, something like that actually? That would be great.
So I think good that we missed out something and then you asked that. So if you really see in what we have done in the plywood business, which is our flagship business, and let me tell you also that this will continue to be our flagship business, the leader in the green ply basket even after 5 years. I mean the plywood business. Okay. So as MDF and other businesses, some other businesses also which we may see in future, they grow. This will remain as a flagship product, plywood. Okay. Now, what we have done in the last 12 to 15 months, we have tried to improve the quality of our balance sheet. We have disciplined ourselves on many aspects in our plywood business. Now, the visibility out of that is that you can see that we have good amount of cash, free cash, which we have been able to generate in the last 12 months despite so much of headwinds. Now, the idea is that since in plywood we are not looking at any major investments going forward, and given the way we are working with even growth opportunities which we are trying to find out in plywood, we'll have cash generations every year. Now, the best way and the efficient way is to deploy it at a place where we make good ROE and ROCE. Correct. And this is one business which we understand as a family, because, don't forget that at one point of time, it was all a combined entity and the promoters have excellent understanding and knowledge of the business. So, you are venturing into a territory which is already a known territory. And we all know post the pandemic, things have actually improved for the MDF business. So much of new things, people are trying to move out from China. They're trying to set up shop here for ready-made furniture, other applications. The technology itself is improving for MDF, right? So we clearly see this as a good entry point. The balance sheet is clean, the balance sheet is healthy. We will keep generating good cash flow from the plywood business, and we'll use the same for our expansion. I mean, so that becomes our growth capital. That's how we look at it.
I would just like to add, also for Greenply, it is very important because, we are mainly producing substrate, plywood and substrate material. And for us to be present in this category and for us to always be a leader in the industry, we have to come out with new age panels. Beyond the point, the growth in plywood will always be eaten by new age panel products such as MDF. So we have to be present in both categories and grow both categories. In plywood, the growth will mainly come from eating the share from unorganized, and in MDF, obviously, it's a new demand and new avenues which India is learning. The West has already learned. We are following them.
Understood. This is very helpful. Just last question, if I may. In terms of the ply business, what is the outlook? How has been the July month? And, any guidance you could help us with in terms of the volume margins?
Well, see, as I said in the last call also, that Q1 for sure was not as per our expectations, though June started picking up to some extent, and July is better than June. But, and which I mentioned in my opening speech also, that even today, many parts of the country, we all know that the public transport has still not started, So labor still somewhere is a challenge. Also, we are facing, and I'm sure others are also facing, is a challenge on the supply chain side, truck availability in certain pockets of the country. But having said that, we feel that, the demand would be back, and we have done all right things in the last 9 to 12 months. So I am looking at it now positively, assuming that there are no more waves which really comes and hits all of us as an industry, as a country. I'm hopeful that the next 3 quarters would be far, far better than what we have done in quarter 1. And in terms of margins, we'll have steady margin for quarter 2. If there are smooth operations from here on, then we'll have good margins as we have mentioned in the past for these 9 months, balanced 9 months.
Understood. Thank you so much. I'll come back in the queue for more questions. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Venkat Simala from Tata Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks a lot for the opportunity. So just building on the previous participant's question, just to understand a little bit more with respect to the rationale and the outlook for MDF business for the company moving forward. You did mention that plywood would continue to be your flagship business segment. But I'm just trying to understand from an incremental capital allocation standpoint, how do you see the outlook moving forward for the company? Because there may not be too much of a capital that your flagship business would be consuming. So shall we assume that moving forward, a lot of capital would hereon be deployed more from a medium to long term perspective? I'm just trying to understand towards this new business.
So Venkat, actually you have answered it. If you really see when for the first next, I would say 3, 4 years, 5 years, what we are looking at is one, to establish this plant, run it at its full scale, which we are assuming that, by since FY23. So we are assuming in FY26 we will be able to be running the plant at full capacity. Okay. And by that time, my existing business would be generating cash, which we can use to repay a lot of our existing loan going forward also, and maybe even partially start repaying part of the loan what we take for MDF. So, once we get to see that how we start performing in MDF, yes, if I continue to generate cash here, either we look at expansion in the same business going forward, or we decide we have time. At this point of time, since the debt profile will go up, we have the easier option of repaying the debt also. And then depending on how well we grow in the plywood business and what type of cash we generate, we will also look at whether we can add other products going forward, and whether those will be capital intensive or whether we look at a lighter model in those new product avenues. So all these things, all these thought processes are coming because the balance sheet has become much stronger. And as an organization, we can tell you, as we are not the one who wants to leverage beyond a point. We'll try to balance, the capital allocation. We'll try to balance the leveraging, and then we will also continue to look at the growth perspectives.
Right. Understood. So maybe not from a very long-term perspective, but maybe say from 3 to 4 year time horizon, would it be fair to assume that your focus would hereon be only on ply and MDF segment, and you may not look at any other categories for now, and your management bandwidth would largely be invested to ensure that these two businesses would grow for you as a company, and largely because MDF is a new category for you and you're deploying so much capital, so therefore you will ensure that you will scale up quite well in this particular business?
Well, look, I may not have a clear answer on your question at this point of time, but I can say with me also joining as a senior management personnel, we have actually increased our horizon of management bandwidth. At the same point of time, we are also hiring quality people, so we already have some very quality people on the MDF, with tons of experience, who understands from setting up the plant to running the business very well, right? So we are also building up a team where we only get into guidance mode initially. We help them to set up the business, start running, and we look at more of capital allocation program that what next we need to do. So I think that today bandwidth is not at all a challenge, and as I said that since at one point of time Greenply was one entity, and the promoters were very hands-on from day one. So we also want to leverage the experience what they have, the business which we understand best. Why not we start with those businesses rather than venturing into new territories? Even though that might be like we have earlier also we have qualified that our interest always will be in the building material segment only. But even within that, the areas where we are very comfortable, where there is good knowledge base, understanding which is already there, if we get an opportunity, why not look into those categories?
Right. Sure. And okay, and given the fact that your net worth is at this point in time close to 450 crores, how did you decide on the size of the new MDF plant? I mean, the total capex is around 550 odd crores, right? And when one of your peers had ventured into this particular category, I think they went with a smaller size plant. So just wanted to understand, how did you get to this 800 CBM per day size or capacity?
See, as we said, we will have a distinct advantage of setting up the first plant in West. Today, there is already our own analysis says that there is already a market of close to around 250,000 CBM. Okay. And our capacity is only 240,000, which also will become operational in FY24. By that time, we feel the way MDF business is doing, it will grow further. Plus, as I said, that there is a latent demand which is there in West, and since today they cannot take supplies from South or North because that becomes expensive, so they are looking at alternates. So they are maybe not even decided to really go big way on the MDF side. So the moment we do this, now we will start looking at some tie-ups also. So for us, the real true good market is the belt of Rajasthan, MP, Maharashtra, okay, part of NCR, and Gujarat. Right, these are the stronger markets for us.
Right.
And when we looked at 600 CBM versus 800 CBM, the capital cost was not proportionately going up. So we felt that this is when we are going to put so much of hard work behind the same. The rationale was that 800 CBM is making much more sense than a 600 CBM to start with, and that's how we came to this decision.
Okay, fair point. And last question, sir, what would be the EBITDA break-even capacity utilization point for this new capacity?
Do you have it somewhere?
I think it should be around 44-45%.
First year we took 50%. It should be around 50 to 55%. Yes. No.
Okay. And when do you expect to get there?
Whatever we are talking right now is, we have been very conservative on this, working 50%. So I think Mukesh is right. The way things are today, possibly even at 40% will break even.
Achha. And when do you expect to get there?
First year itself. First year, so FY24 itself.
FY24 itself. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Sure, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Wish you all the best.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants, please limit your question to 2 per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Romil Jain from Electrum PMS. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope I am clear.
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is on the plywood side. I think about a year back we had envisaged the plan on the distribution network, going more into the semi-urban areas and a bit more on the rural areas. So one is on that distribution, where do we stand right now? how is the progress, going? Because distribution will play a key role in, increasing our revenue on the ply side also, because we are also doing the other expansion also, which will come on board next year. So that is the question. And along with that, how do we see the unorganized market, unorganized to organized, playing out?
Okay. So Rohan, see, that is something which we continue to work upon, in terms of network penetration. And I think in the last, so we started this initiative sometime in August, right? Around August, we started this initiative, and we have been able to create a new network of almost around 600 plus dealers under the same. But as I said, it's not that, we have started billing to all 600 on a monthly basis. On an average, we found that at least 1/3 of that we have been able to now convert and start billing them on a monthly basis, which means if you look at it, this has added around 6 to 7% of my total turnover in Q4. Now we need to continuously work on this. There is a plan which is going on. Our team is working on the same, and we'll continue to expand this horizon. Also,
sorry, sir. Yeah. So just to clarify, the 600 dealers, they are incremental dealers, or started this initiative, or how it is?
Yes. These are incremental dealers, I am saying, after we started this initiative.
Okay. And sir, today, where does our entire, distribution chain stand at in terms of the dealers or the retail points?
No, we are spread across the country.
No, I mean in terms of numbers.
So
the total dealership.
We have around 2,300 plus
total.
Yes, dealers network spanning there.
Total you are asking?
Yes.
Okay.
2,000.
Okay, so 2,300 dealers. Okay. Sir, and just another question on the Gabon operations. So, how it is progressing. I think we were, trying to sell some material to the US also, and I think there was some issue on the freight and the availability of the ships and everything. So, how is the situation right now, and when can we expand that?
Well, the situation remains somehow similar. We have not seen much improvement in terms of getting the vessels, and we still have a good amount of, containers waiting for shipment. Okay. So, and I think this is what we were apprehending. Even I have continued to mention this in previous call, that as long as this entire, pandemic worldwide does not really substantially improve, we might see this pressure to continue. So my own hunch was that up to December, we don't see really, things improving. And that's how the same has been at the ground level also. But having said that also, we are able to do a reasonable sale. All our other things are in place. We have become efficient on the production side. Raw material now at this point of time is not a challenge there. So all other things are there. We have actually cut down on our production because of the dispatch issues. We have not gone back to the US customer only because, the last time also when we shipped it, it took almost 5 months for the consignment only to reach to them.
Okay.
So today, we are cutting down on our orders even from Europe. Yes,
okay.
As far as Southeast is concerned, it is slightly on a weak footing. The order book is not so good, but we have a full fill. As I said that, we are actually rejecting orders also because we won't be able to meet our commitments. And there's so much of volatility in price and sea freight that we don't want to get into that risk.
Okay. So, got it. And on the RM side, sir, how is the situation? Have we seen escalation? If yes, any price hikes that we are, going to take? Some sense on that, sir. Thanks.
On the domestic side, you are saying?
Yeah, on the raw material situation, on the plywood side.
Yeah, raw material price, we felt that, it was getting into a stable zone, but again, we see some amount of volatility. Our own sense is that maybe by Q2, we will be able to see more stable prices, but there has been some raw material price increase again in Q1. We took a price increase of anything between 2-2.5% in quarter one, and we might look at another price increase again in quarter two.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thanks a lot for the clarification.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sonal Kohli from Bowhead. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. My query pertains to your gross margins. We have seen a very substantial increase in gross margins, which obviously hasn't flown to EBITDA margins considering, negative operating leverage. Assuming that way, whenever you normalize, whether, it is this quarter or the quarter, after this quarter, what kind of EBITDA margins can we expect, because if I extrapolate your EBITDA margins of Q4 and add the delta of gross margins, it looks too good to be true. So, some light on that would be very helpful,
So, Sonal, I think a lot of effort is also going on into building up efficiencies in each and every area. Time has been very tough, but God has been very kind that many of our initiatives are working in the right direction. As far as gross margin or EBITDA margin is concerned, I think whatever guidance we have given in the past, that we are looking at somewhere around 13% to 14% EBITDA margin, which we had promised to everyone by FY23. Okay, we have actually accentuated the process and we were able to reach very near to those numbers even in Q4. So I think, of course, Q1 is an aberration because, when we could not achieve the scales of the right sales, we could not have seen those type of EBITDA. But from Q2 to Q4, if things now runs properly without any disruption, I'm sure we will continue to look at 13% type EBITDA margin. And our thrust to grow it further in any case will continue. At the same time, we are investing also a lot back into the business. You would have seen we have done good amount of marketing activity in partially in Q4 and then in Q1 again. So brand building activity, investment on IT infrastructure in a big way, investment on people. Okay, so all those initiatives are also going on at the same time. Now, even despite all those, if we are able to reach to a 13% or 13% plus margin, I would say that, it will be a job well done, because reinvestment into the business is extremely important for us if we are looking at next 10 years horizon.
Thank you. One more follow-up. What is your sense of the plywood or real estate cycle? We had asked you this, 6-9 months back, and it was perhaps too early to ask you. Do you think this is more led by pent-up demand, or do you think this is more structural in nature? And are we beginning? Are we end? Are we at mid stage of that cycle? Whatever your personal thoughts are would be highly appreciated.
Well, I think one in my opening speech we mentioned that we are very bullish in terms of the real estate business picking up. So not from a price point of view, I have no hunch on the same, but I'm saying in terms of volume business, the real estate business will pick up further because of this pandemic situation where this work from home has become so common. Even today morning, I was talking to a consulting firm, and they mentioned that they have not even seen their office for last 1.5 years. They are so comfortable now working from home, right? So, and this is what we are hearing from most of the consulting businesses. IT businesses have scaled down their office sizes, and now 30-40% of their people are still working from home. Okay, so looking at this, I think real estate demand will go up. Upgradation of house will take place, so a 2 BHK will move to a 3 BHK, a 3 BHK will move to a 4 BHK. So one is this new demand which would be there. Second, coming back to post-pandemic, the reality is somewhere the dealer fraternity have also sensed that there's a lot of challenge in terms of supply issues from the unorganized market. Okay, there has been a lot of disruptions. So somewhere that conversion is also taking place. Over and above that, whatever GST initiatives were being taken in the country around 4 years back, that has also started to play out because the government is becoming stricter day by day. Transparencies are improving in the businesses. If you will see fast track approach, if you will see other initiatives taken by the government. So with all these things, I think for any branded goods business, the time would be good only. And we also being part of the same, we will get a lot of uptake because of the same also. So conversion of unorganized to organized.
Sir, just a follow-up on your answer, since you are more at the premium end, obviously you do have, economy brands also, but they're very small as a part of your turnover. So how would transition from unorganized to, national level benefit you? Wouldn't it benefit more low-end national or regional brands, or even the regional brands, which are large in size, let's say 100, 200 crores turnover, and have some element of, small branding? They also have GST related issues, and they are also facing supply chain, and therefore, when you said unorganized, were you referring to these reasonable size players, or were you referring to really unorganized players? Because for really small unorganized players, they wouldn't be a competition for most of your business.
So we have a mid-size brand, in the medium segment, and we are expecting that will grow very well. When you are saying compared to the unorganized market, the demand shift will happen there. Then we are also, as a leader, we have come out with the E0 initiative. We are the first one in the country to have the E0 products across our entire premium category. So there is a shift of demand also which will happen because more and more senior organized players will move to some of these initiatives. And today, if you really see, people are, one thing people are really worried about is health. So these are also, initiatives which will give an uptick to companies like us. So, and we are not looking at, and today if you see otherwise, even if you are talking of maybe let's say the B grade players today, yes, they have an opportunity to grow. Why not? Because if you see the ratio of organized to unorganized, it is somewhere around 20 to 80. So we are not looking at converting the entire 80 to add up to this 20. Even a 10% shift is good enough for some of the large players to grow very well for the next 5 to 6 years. Very well. I mean, we can grow extremely well if that type of a shift also happens over a period of next 5 to 6 years.
So lastly, are you confident of maintaining your gross margins around these levels, or was any one-off because of mix change or a regional change, shift in this quarter?
Well, look, I would say that, I'm more guiding on the EBITDA margin, okay, because we'll have to also see other upgradations, what we are doing at different levels. As I said, we are in reinvesting also back into the company. So we'll try to see that, so a better gross margin only empowers us better to reinvest into the business. And at this point of time, that is really required if you have to build up the business for the next 10 years. Having said all these things, the guidance on EBITDA margin, which we maintained around last year, a 400 basis point improvement, we were at around 10% at that point of time, right? So we are still looking at, we are almost reached around 13% if you see quarter 4. And I think we will be 13% plus going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Participants are requested to please limit your question to one per participant. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Ghosh from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. So just one question in terms of MDF. How are you looking at in terms of, because MDF is also used in the retail segment now. So any thoughts when your plant kind of comes up in FY 24, it kind of commences, what will be the, how much of that you'll be able to leverage as far as the dealer distribution network is concerned, or will it be predominantly to OEMs only?
So I'd like to answer this question. So as I mentioned in this call today, that we believe that 20% of the network is going to be common, and 80% of the network will be a network which we'll have to create and develop. So we are assuming that 20% of our total network already sells MDF and deals with MDF, and these are mainly dealers, distributors, and some OEMs which also buy plywood from us. But as we enter into this category, 80% of dealers will be new unique partners who are either OEM owners or people who run the OEM, or they are dealer distributors who are specifically dealing with MDF. Also in West, what has happened is that there were very large importers who are selling MDF, and who are since pandemic they are sitting without any business. So we are also looking to tie up with them because they already had a market created and they don't have any material to supply today.
Okay. Just one more question. Would you also look at evaluating other products where there is family presence beyond plywood and MDF, or would you want to stabilize at these two products at this point in time?
Well, early to comment, but I said that we'll have to continue to look at growth opportunities, and as and when we look at anything further, of course, we'll come back to you people.
All the best.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashish Poddar from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So if you can just elaborate on the distribution model of plywood and MDF, it is similar or very different? And in terms of your funding plans for the capex, what are you targeting, and what will be the interest charge expected on that? In the plywood, capacity utilization was pretty low in Q1. I understand that the primary sales were lower, but within other consumer product categories, people could not sell in Q1, but they built inventory in expectation of pent-up demand in coming quarters. So their plants were running at full capacity, but in our case, it slipped from 100% to 70%. So are we expecting only gradual recovery and no V-shaped type of recovery in coming quarters? And in that sense, is our growth guidance, which were there earlier, has been pruned significantly for the year? Thank you.
So first I'll answer your first question, which was the plywood and MDF distribution model. So I think they are quite different. Plywood in India, with players like us and our peers, we've made it a very branded game where there's a huge gap between the branded plywood and the unorganized plywood, where the brand enjoys a premium and the number of sellers are too many in the market. Hence, like marketing the product and branding the product and doing good sales needs a lot of hard work. While on the other side, MDF is more like a commodity where brand does play a role, but not to a great extent. And availability, right quality, right pricing, right product plays a bigger role in MDF. And obviously, having all of this and the brand, it's an added advantage. So, we'll have the right product, we'll have the right quality, and at the same time, we'll have a better pricing in West, which will help us enter the trade and the OEM market very, very fast. And this better pricing will come not at the cost of margins, but at the cost of saving outward freight, which is totally justified. And we'll be able to enter the market and penetrate very, very quickly. So this is like a short explanation. What is the difference between the trade of MDF and plywood? What was your other question?
The funding of this capex.
Funding is a mix of internal accruals and debt, which we are going to raise. And interest rate, we have not, we just now approach the bankers since we just got the approval from the board.
No, but will it be domestic or external borrowings also?
Well, we are looking at the best of it, so it will be a mix. Partially it will be domestic, partially it will be foreign funding.
Okay, got it, sir. And on the plywood utilization?
Yeah, that's what we have thought at this point of time. But of course, everything will depend on the commercials and the pricing. So once we go to the market, then we will be able to figure out. But I think right now we are looking at a mix of both.
And on the plywood growth guidance for the year, sir?
Look, growth guidance, if you already seen Q1, which was disappointing because almost the month of May, there was hardly any activity. Okay. And with the pandemic situation continuing, everybody talking about the third wave, the growth depends. It's a factor of how things pan out. So I would suggest that let's not look at the growth number, because commenting anything on that is something where there are so many things which is today beyond our control. And you have seen our Q4 performance. I'm sure that people understand that if things comes back to semblance, we will try to match it.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arun Baid from BOB Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Sanidhya. This is for you. This MDF plant of ours is going to be more German, or it's going to be more biased with Chinese?
So as of now, what we have planned, though we have not signed the main line because we got the approval yesterday itself, but we are deciding that the main press forming and all the important machinery is European, while as the ancillary machinery and the machinery to support the main line, which are not that critical in nature, is going to be Chinese. So it's more like a hybrid plant, you can say, where 60 to 70% of the machinery is European and the rest is Chinese and Indian. The energy plant is Indian.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Achal from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the follow-up opportunity, sir. If I look at the standalone numbers, the employee cost, the number is fairly substantial. It's at around 39 crores, which used to be 33, 34 crores earlier. So can you help us understand, is that the new run rate we should look at, or was there any specific element which kind of drove this higher staff cost?
No, I think this is the new run rate which you should look at, because as I said, we are adding people also. And so we will continue at this run rate only. See, last year, similar time, operations were not working, so there were a lot of savings on the wages side, other things. And last year, we had done some rationalization also in terms of people, though we had not done anything in terms of salary deduction on this. Now, this year, we have not done anything in Q1 because we are very bullish about the performance. We are also adding some new categories. So, adding people also. So, this will be the new run rate.
So, Achal, just what Manoj you said, this number 39 includes provision on account of ESOP also, which is close to 3 crores.
So that's a non-cash cost, which is also there, 1%.
On more than 1%. More than 1.5%.
Yeah. But that will also continue to come.
This will continue.
Yeah, that will also continue to come.
It's a
non-cash cost, but it will continue to come.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kamlesh Kotak from Asian Markets. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I have a broader question, sir. We are seeing that currently MDF is less than 20% of the overall wood markets, and you also have been highlighting that plywood may not be growing at the same pace. So from 3 to 5 years perspective, what do you see is the growth rate for the industry? I'm not talking of organized and unorganized. How would be the industry growth for plywood and MDF? And 5 years from now, how do you see the proportion of the MDF as an overall part of the overall wood industry? You can share that.
See, MDF, we saw some past data. We have seen a CAGR of around 10%. But given the changes which has happened in the dynamics in last 12 months actually post the pandemic, we now estimate that market can grow anything between 12 to 15%, and is here to stay, for the next maybe even 10 years. Plywood, I think would be a lot more shift from the unorganized to organized, but we still feel that a 3 to 4% increase in plywood sales overall market would be there in terms of volume terms.
Okay. And then do you see that with so many players now coming in MDF, even Century also has highlighted of expanding with one more plant, and some other plants also come up in the southern market. Do you see that there will be a medium-term kind of pricing pressure across the industry, both on realization as well on the margin?
No, I don't perceive that because, this will become like a regional play. Okay. So as I said that when we are setting up a plant in West, we are looking at utilizing 80%, 85% of our capacities in West itself. And that's how has been the trend for all the players. So, it's something like a pure commodity business where freight is a major cost. So we don't see that as a challenge, and we have done some working because it is more organized. It's not like fly where you don't get all the data. I mean, if you see today, the capacities are close to around 1.7 million CBM. And with added capacities also, it will go to somewhere around 2.5 in the next 2.5, 3 years with all those added, capacities which has been declared by the other players. And the way the market is going, today the demand actually, also our estimate says it's already around 2 million. So we don't see that as a challenge, going forward in terms of a demand supply issue. Rest so you don't know sometimes how the events unfold. Like the pandemic, I think, has been a big boon for the MDF business. It's a major transformational journey which MDF will see because of the pandemic. And if you look at scale, China today operates more than 300 lines. 300. Right. So all our internal assessments say China today runs more than 300 lines. In India, we are today anything around 14, 15 lines. That's it. So we are nowhere when you really look at in terms of usage of the product.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Mohammed Patel, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for the opportunity. So do we have a non-compete in the MDF with Greenpanel?
Sorry, can you please repeat your question?
Do we have a non-compete agreement with Greenpanel in the MDF side after the demerger?
So in our demerger agreement, and as I had mentioned in the past in the earnings call of Q3 FY21, that our demerger agreement had a non-compete clause for 7 years, and it also said that or unless mutually agreed, where both the companies have mutually agreed to end the non-compete and has been duly informed to the board, and hence we've got approval from our board to enter the same business.
Okay. And so this 800 CBM per day, what is the annual capacity? 250,000?
240,000.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Karan Bhatelia.
Hi team, thank you for giving answer the opportunity to host the con call. Any closing remark team you want to make?
Yes.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I would like to thank you all for taking the time to participate in this call. We are happy with the efforts and progress we are making across our businesses and the results of our various initiatives. We look forward to speaking with you in the next con call post our Q2 FY22 result announcement. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Asian Market Securities, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.